friends, welcome to Lean and Clean with fitness chef Christine. Today I am joined by my good friend Jean, and she has her own group of ladies over 50. It is called Your Life Over 50, so check it out. And I am going to let her talk about her group and her life experience and her journey because who better to do it, right? Tell me everything.
You might not want to hear everything, but first of all, thank you so much, Christine, for allowing me to be a guest on your show.
It's a
It
pleasure.
is really, it's a pleasure, it's a blessing to be here. And as far as my group, Your Life Over 50, we're a group of ladies over 50, of course.
I'm in there.
And that's it. Some of us way over 50. But in addition to my group, I also have a podcast by the same name. Now, one of the reason I started the podcast and the way I started it was I needed to do a podcast let me back up. I'm a member of a Toastmasters club. And in going through the levels, one of the requirements, there was a list of prerequisites that I could choose from. But when I looked at each one, they gave me heartburn. So I don't want to do that. But
Give me
the
an example,
one
like what?
stuff difficult people, putting a group together and having someone difficult, and you deal with the difficult people, and then you write up your spiel on it and explain how you dealt with the people. And
Yeah,
then there's something
I wouldn't want
about
to do that either.
uh, I don't know. There were a lot on that same line, and I found no pleasure in it. And I thought, if there's something I could do, then let me do it. And I've always been curious about podcasting because I listen to them all the time. And they had podcasting and blogging. And so there's two levels, two paths, and I can use podcast for one and blog for the other. Those were the only two. Otherwise, I'm not making it to the top. I just don't like this. I decided to do take
Podcast.
the prerequisite of podcasting because I was always curious, always listened to just that filled my day was listening to one podcast after another. But I weren't sure just how I would go about really doing this. And a year or so before, I'm also a storyteller and I'm staff of Capital Storytelling.
So cool.
And the director did I don't know, 4-session podcasting class. And I took that, but it was like in one ear, out the other, because it was before I decided I really was going to do it. I'm sitting around thinking, okay, I'm reading everything I can find, listening to YouTube videos, talking to my son, who is the nerd of the family. And then all of a sudden, I pick up my phone, go to Facebook, and there's Miss Stacy saying, "Do you want to start a podcast? 17 days free, guaranteed the first 3." And I thought, this can't be free. In any case, long story long, I decided take a chance, sign up, and it's one of the best things that I've done because she was so patient, walked me through the whole process. When I just got stuck and said, maybe, no, I'm not going to do it, she got on a call and broke that, broke
I
through that stuckness. And so now, as far as finding your voice, podcasting is finding my voice and I love it. I enjoy interviewing guests. I, it's it's a whole new world for me and I just totally enjoy it.
I love that. Do you know that Stacy helped me get started as well?
Did she?
Yes, but it's a funny thing because I had never heard of Stacy.
I hadn't either.
And I was in a podcasting class. It was like 3 weeks long. And if you know me, I don't have a lot of patience. I'm always about rapid action. And I got an email because I had a mini course, and I got a mini course email of all the new mini courses that came out. And I
Okay.
saw start a podcast in 90 minutes. And it was like $47. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to do this. Never heard of her, had no idea what I was signing up for. So when we got on the Zoom, it was me and two other people.
Okay.
It was the three of us and Stacy. The other two people hadn't gone as far as I had in terms of setting up the podcast because I'd already got my podcast art done. I'd already done because I've been taking this class. And Stacy said, "Does anyone want to set up their podcast live?" I was like, "Oh, pick me, pick me." So we did it right then and there. By the end of that 90 minutes, everything was set up. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. So, of course, I followed her on social media, and the rest is history. This is how you and I came to be talking.
That's exactly right. That's
So,
exactly right.
I call that divine intervention.
So do I. So do I.
Really, it's been
She
such a
really,
blessing.
yes. She really, I'm not sure if she really understands how much of a blessing
I don't think
she
she
is.
does. I really don't. Or most of the people in the group. We're all entrepreneurs. We're all figuring things out as we go. But the support of the groups that we're in is phenomenal. Like I've
Mhm.
never found that in another group of people.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's really cool. Okay,
Yeah.
so you decided to start a podcast. Was that last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago,
2 years ago. And how many episodes have you done?
2023,
How many episodes?
third, 38. I think I finished 38 last night. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's
Mhm.
amazing. I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. And did you
Thank
ever start a blog?
No, I haven't done that yet, but that will be coming when I get on this next path. I will do it. I have things set up to do it, but
I
not being
started.
a writer, I'm finding those blocks, those mental blocks that's stopping me. But
Same, same.
yeah,
I started to do a blog and then I realized that I'm not very good at writing. My grammar is terrible. I had to keep going back and having my grammar fixed. And I think faster than I can type. So I think I'm typing it right. And then I go back and read it and realize that there's missing words and what I actually thought and what actually on paper is not the same. So my goal is always to help people, and I felt like I was failing in that realm. So I decided to do a monthly newsletter or a weekly newsletter instead.
okay.
And just the podcast that we're on is about food and fitness and fat loss and faith. So I just do a little bit of each one of those every week to catch up with my friends. And away we go. Because I need a format. I am not good at just rewriting at all. So
I'm not either. And I call it the brain hand lag because my brain is one place, my hands are somewhere else. And back in the day when it was a typewriter and I was in the clerical field, it was so difficult because I would be typing away, but my brain was be going, but my
mhm.
fingers didn't catch up. So I knew I couldn't stay there because I would be fired. So then I had to work my way up the ladder. So I didn't have to do that. But no, I do have the brain hand lag is
So
what I call.
you came from the corporate world into the entrepreneurial world?
From I worked for the state
Okay.
of California, so I'm not sure if that could be considered corporate.
I think government and corporate have a lot of
Okay.
intersections. So I would say I would say yes.
Yeah.
Anything that has a lot of structure, I consider corporate.
Yeah.
I did
Okay.
that for a while too. It did not make me very happy. I was not very good at sitting at a desk. I was not very good at that.
No, no, I drank a lot of coffee, ate a lot of chocolate.
There you go. Coping mechanism. I love it. So tell
Yes,
me, how did you retire from there and then get into the entrepreneurial world?
I
Or was
did.
it just a long transition? What happened?
When I went into, initially, it was corporate. I went in with the mentality 5 years and I was going to start my own thing. And I wanted to follow after my brother. And I thought, we came from the same roots. So if he could do it, why can't I?
For sure.
But then after 5 years, the first child came. I was like, okay, I need to keep doing this. And then 3 years later, the second child came. So it just kept going on, and I kept doing the entrepreneurial stuff on the side,
Right.
trying to just give me that energy to stay in the workforce because it was tearing me up inside, but I saw the need for
Right.
the money to keep my family where I wanted them to be.
I
So
totally understand
I
that.
kept doing this stuff on the side just as my encouragement or
Called the spirit lifters. Just
sp-
lift your spirit.
I like that, spirit lifters. Yes,
Because
yes,
I was the same
yes.
way. I worked in finance and I just didn't like it. I kept slogging along. And then my first pregnancy, I actually had a preterm baby and she'd passed away. And then I decided that it just wasn't worth all the energy I was putting into working corporate. And so I exited, left. I decided to leave that and decided to open a flower shop. So by the time both my kids were born, they used to come with me to work every day. And then we moved across country to California. And then from California, we were there for a couple of years. We moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where we are now. I had to get entrepreneurial because we were hopping around all the time. I went to
Mhm.
culinary school and then I did a little bit of this and a little bit of that and chefed and opened a couple businesses. It was great, but exhausting. But you know
Yeah,
what? Those skills that we did on the little side hustles and all those things are what makes us great today.
that's it. That's it. I
What
I
what is
would
the
not change that. Mm.
I'm sorry, what is the biggest lesson you could tell your younger self that you've learned?
The one lesson I could tell my younger self is although the road was rough, so to speak, to pay attention, to continue listening, because the things that's caught are not always taught. And to be open for change. But I think perhaps the biggest thing I would tell my younger self is you know what God has given you and the gift that He has given you to don't let anyone take it away from you.
I
Don't let anyone, regard no one. That is one lesson I would give myself. Just don't stand firm
I love
because God
that.
has given it to you and He will strengthen you. And if the people around can't handle it, then He'll still provide.
You know what's funny about that is I had a hater, and this person would show up on everything that I did, every live, every group, everything. And I totally let that get in my head. I was ready to give it all up because I thought, I feel called by God to do this, but maybe they made me feel like an imposter. No matter how much I have all the certifications, they kept saying, you're not qualified, you're not qualified. And that became like a loop in my head. You're not qualified. You're not qualified, no matter how. And so I kept taking more classes and more classes. And it drove me crazy. My husband's, whoa, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. And it made me quit a job I really enjoyed. It was crazy. It was a crazy time. But when you're called by God to do something, that voice just will not shut off. It will not shut off. And so I finally just woke up and said, you know what? They can continue hating me. They didn't even tell me who they were. That's their problem. I'm doing the work I feel I'm called to do. And so I'm just going to march along. And that's what I've done. It was scary at first, though. I kept checking my emails like, are they back? Are they? It can get in your
Mhm.
head.
Yes, definitely. They get in your head, and then I got in my head. And then there was this chatterbox on my shoulder. Why are you doing this? Don't you remember this? And don't you? And so it just drug on until the voice inside was so strong. And I either do it or I'm going to die, and I'm not ready to die. So,
Well, you better not. And the thing is, so we have powerful messages. Like your life has a powerful message.
mhm,
And we're all out here, we need support. We're all better together than on our own,
that's
right?
true.
And
Right.
if all these groups have taught me something, it's that collaboration is the way to success. And it's the way to feel good about yourself because working together, like just you and I talking, like we have different points of reference with the same struggles. And I nobody ever told me how hard menopause was going to be. I remember my mom died early. She died, well, 67,
Hmm.
but she went through menopause early. So I remember her like rubbing snow on her body, saying how hot she was, but she never really told me all the stuff that she went through. And I went to the doctor. My legs were really hurting. That could be from menopause, but I wasn't prepared. I didn't know what to expect. When getting in these groups with a whole bunch of menopause coaches and taking all the classes, oh, okay, I'm not the only person. This is normal. All right, cool. There's light at the end of that tunnel.
It is. When once we realize that we're just not out on this limb or on this journey alone, it doesn't always make the pain easier, but it's like we have company.
Yeah.
And so in a sense, it does make it easier because now it's not in my head. It's God, like the burning up at night. You wake up at night and you're drenched in, it's
Yeah.
like,
Night sweats
I'm
are
the
horrible.
only one doing this. Oh my God. It's
It's
like,
horrible.
yes, yes,
And for
yes.
that, I went on HRT and it erased all of that. It was fabulous. But then when my legs started going bad, they told me to take a break for a while from the HRT,
Mhm.
just see if it helped my legs. Okay, it brought on the hot flashes like double time. I was like, oh my gosh, give me back my HRT. I don't care. So I'm back. I no more hot flashes. It was crazy bad. I would wake up, my hair would be wet. I'm like, gross. So, the
Yeah.
lovely, and I talked to my daughter has a 3-month old and a 4-year old, and we were talking, and she goes, I totally get now why every time you cough or sneeze, you cross your legs. Like, yeah, because I don't want to pee on myself. Like, she goes, I never got it before I had kids, but now I do. Like, yeah,
Yes,
it's a
exactly.
fun time. All the lady problems that we have as we get older. It's good.
Yes. It's just life growing
Yeah.
old.
So tell
Mhm.
me what the future holds for you. What's going on? What are you doing? Are you doing anything new? Are you have any programs? Tell me what's happening.
What is happening for the future or as we go, staying in within the group within the group, so to speak. Okay, first of all, let's just back up.
Okay.
My thing is storytelling,
I know.
personal oral narrative. And during COVID is when I got involved in that. And that's a whole nother story. But
Everybody.
I love it. It is very therapeutic.
Hmm.
It's not therapy, but it's very therapeutic. So in my group, I want to bring in the concept of storytelling. Now, before I got started my group, before I did this, I work with ladies in finding their passion once they had retired. Because what happened is, or what I've found in talking to ladies, as women, we are caregivers, not as in caring for a sick parent, but
Right.
we give care to everything and everybody except ourselves.
Yes.
So once they are retired, and oftentimes they are solo because either divorced or they are widowed, the kids are gone, and they wake up as, what is there? I know I want to do something.
Purpose. We
What
need more
is it?
purpose. Yeah.
Yes, they put their purpose, their dreams, their goals on the back while they're caring for everyone else. So all of those cares stacked on top of what they cared about, they no longer can find it. It's knee deep underneath so much. So I
Right.
work with ladies and walking through that to find what is it that they really like? What is it that bring them joy? And then after getting into storytelling and playing with the idea, I found that most time our passion lies within our story. So if we go back and look in our life and come up and tell our story, that passion lies within that. So my thing is that my tagline is your goal is in your story. So
Oh,
it's GOAL, but listening to is like GOLD. Your
yeah.
goal is in your story and to walk them through to find what their purpose, their passion is, and to guide them into the direction they want and to let them know that they are heard, they are seen, they are cared about. And I hear you because I don't know about you, but I found so often that we talk, but we are not heard.
Yeah.
And so I want my ladies to know I hear you and I will walk with you to where you go. And so that's what's in
Beautiful.
my future is continuing to build that.
So I love listening to storytelling. Like it doesn't come natural for me. I get
Mhm.
nervous and then I lose my my thought process. But maybe you could tell us just a little story if you feel comfortable. Just something small.
Just something eensy weensy.
Yeah.
Oh, let me see which one would perhaps I'll share this one and it was okay, and I usually tell more about my childhood
Okay.
and developing that. So this one would be I was like third grade, I think. I was always shy, reserved, and I don't know if you grew up in an area where they schools celebrated May Day,
Yeah.
and oh, so our schools participated in the May Day activities, and my teacher chose me to represent third grade in storytelling and to tell a story. And even now, I didn't want to do it because first of all, I had to go. I went to school in this two-room schoolhouse, divided down the middle with
Hmm.
denim. Kindergarten through third grade on one side, one teacher, fourth through eight, yada, yada, yada. So it was a small community. I knew everyone, but we
Right.
had to go to the large school in town for this event. And I had to be on stage and I had to be in front of a microphone. I didn't want to do it. And I just assumed my mom was going to step in and say, "Oh, baby, you don't have to do that. Teacher can get someone else." So when teacher said, "I want you to represent this is history," it was a silly story.
Right.
Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Who
Right.
already knew it? And I thought, I don't want to do it. And she said, "Yes, you will represent." So I go home and said, "Mom, I don't want to do it." She said, "What did teacher say?" I said, "Teacher said I had to represent the class." And she said, "Do you know the story?" I said, "Mom, yes. How many times have we went over it?" She said, "Then you'll do what teacher say and you'll represent the class and you'll be just fine." But there was a time frame. Teacher during the day would I had to repeat. I come home, my mom repeat just to make sure I get everything in this time frame. The day come and we're there. And it's so amazing because all of these people, never seen that many people, and we're off in a holding cell or the waiting area. And then I hear the announcement, third grade storytellers come to the stage area. And so my teacher came, she took my hand, she said, "Okay, let's go. You're going to be fine. You remember what you're doing." And she go over the details. And we go up, and there were a couple of kids before, and then my name was called. And she looked at me and she said, "You'll be just fine. You'll be just fine." I was forcing back the tears because I was so scared. And I walked up those stairs, I walked out on the stage, and I stood in front of the mic and I started telling Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And then I looked down. The stage seemed to have been 10 feet high. And I looked down and I'm not sure why. Probably because I was scared and I looked, but I looked down right into the eyes of my first cousin, who
Oh,
I didn't see very often. And I panicked because I thought, "Oh my God, I'm going to mess up." And then she's going to tell her mom. And then her mom going to tell my mom. And then my mom's going to be hurt because I messed up. And then teacher's going to be, and my brain is
yeah, you get in that
flipping like
cycle.
this. And by the time I pull myself together and start up again, the buzzer sounds. I let teacher down, I let the class down, I let myself down, my mom down, and I was devastated. And when I got home, my mom met me because we lived away from where the bus dropped us off, where the school was. My mom came down to meet me. She said, "How did you do?" Like she didn't know. There was no telephones, but
Right.
word spread fast. And I said, "Mom, I froze." She said, "No, how did you do?" I said, "Mom, I froze." She said, "Well, baby, when you thawed out, how did you do?" I said, "Mom, I messed up. I let the teacher down. I let you down." She said, "So why did you freeze?" I said, "Because I looked down and cousin was sitting right there and I thought I was messing up and she was going to tell her mom and her mom was going to tell you." And my mom always calm. She just looked at me and she said, "Baby, just remember, when you have something to do, keep your eyes up. Don't look down at anyone or anything. Keep your eyes up and look ahead. So next time when you have to get on stage, remember, look ahead. Don't look down." And in my little head, I said, there will never be a next time. Never.
And look at you now. Huh? Your mama was right.
She was. My mom was usually right. So
There's
that
something special about
was,
mamas.
that was my first introduction to speaking on stage. And I'm thinking that is the block that is still holding me today because I remember failing not just myself, but the school, the teachers, just the community. And
One thing I would say to that though is if you had a third grader tell you the same thing, I'm sure you would tell them it's no big deal, right?
of course,
It shapes our whole lives and it means so much to us.
yes.
I'll tell you my third grade story real quick. So I was always a very clumsy child and it was chunky. So my third grade teacher nicknamed me Calamity Jane. Ever see that movie? Yeah.
Yes.
So she made me feel even more awkward. And so I was so in tune with that. She thought I was awkward. So I became more awkward and I would trip more and I would fall over. And it was an ongoing saga. And people would laugh at me, "You're so clumsy." And so that got in my head. And to this day, I'm always tripping over things. These stupid little things that happen to us when they're young can blow up huge in our brains.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes some rewiring and some deep thought process to just let it go. But it makes us who we are too,
It does.
you
It
know?
does because I don't look down. That is one thing I remember. I
That
don't
is
look
such
down.
good advice. So good. I do
Yes.
remember trying out for a musical in high school and I did awful. Even though I practiced and everything was great, it was the
Mhm.
last time I ever sang in front of people. Oh no, I one more time in college. So it was even worse. But anyhow, and the funny thing is, my daughter's a vocal coach. Like, you could help me, my younger self. But again, we hyper focus on the things that we do wrong
Mhm.
and overlook all the awesome things that we've done.
It's true.
My goal as we age is to celebrate all the wins, celebrate the wins, celebrate the wins. That's exactly what I do with the podcast, with the groups I'm in, and everybody. There are so many awesome things that we do. Sometimes we just forget them. We concentrate on the negative. And I see all the awesome things that you do. I see your lives. I see when you get out and speak and you speak words of affirmations to people. I see you.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. I so appreciate you being here and just sharing. And how can people join your group?
They can join my group by just going to Facebook, looking up Your Life Over 50.
Mhm.
There's 3 questions that you'll need to answer. That's it.
Okay,
Smooth and
I love
simple.
it. And I'll put
Mhm.
the link, if you don't mind, I'll put the link in the show notes so people can find it easy. And
Okay.
then you have your podcast is the same name, so I'll link that too. And then if somebody wants to contact you, they can do that through Facebook.
Yes, absolutely. Mhm.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you for sharing your wonderful talents with us today. And hopefully over time you can help me with my storytelling. I'll be a little more active because I need to do that. So I really appreciate you. And for our listeners, I want you to all to know that I pray for each and every one of you. I thank you for being with us today. And if you haven't already subscribed, I would really appreciate if you do that and give us a little thumbs up. If you have any questions for either one of us, pop them in the comments and we'll get back to you. As always, I appreciate every one of you. So thank you again.